Greetings, film freaks. We are the Podcorn Kernels. Join us as we discuss the hard and often indigestible truths that are at the center of the fluffy and delicious world of cinema. Season 2.
What's poppin', people? Welcome to the Podcorn Kernels podcast. My name is Adam, and joining me in your earholes is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
If I'm in a freeway with Brian Cox, the physicist, right, and Brian Cox, the actor, guess what my first name is? In between.
On today's episode, we will be talking about Maestro. This is a 2023 film directed by Bradley Cooper and stars Carey Mulligan, Bradley Cooper, and Matt Bomer. IMDb describes the synopsis as follows. This love story chronicles the lifelong relationship of conductor-composer Leonard Bernstein and actress Felicia Montealegre Cohn Bernstein. Here is an original song to support the synopsis.
Maestro, a wizard of sound, he's a maestro. Well fucking renowned, he's a maestro. And that's what they call him, he's a maestro. When Leonard comes calling, maestro. Instruments fall in, I said a maestro. Learning and falling, he's a maestro. Now he's snowballing, he's a maestro. Cocaine at parties, maestro. His friends are all arty, maestro. Kings of conducting, he's a maestro. Whoever he's fucking, he's a maestro. That's what they call him, he's a maestro. When he comes calling, maestro.
Let's start with some facts about the film. Steven Spielberg was considering directing this movie, but when Bradley Cooper showed him an early cut of A Star is Born, Spielberg walked over to Cooper after the shallow scene and said to him, "You're directing, Maestro."
Really?
Yeah, I feel like that's a Paul Hollywood handshake from the Great British Bake Off, but it actually means something.
Paul Hollywood?
Because for having a master like Spielberg saying, "You know what, kid, you've got this one. I was going to do it, but I feel like you can do it justice." How good must Cooper have felt after that?
Yeah.
That's like a master telling his pupil that he's ready.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I would. If I was a filmmaker, that would be the icing on the cake for me. It's to have someone like Spielberg or Scorsese or Tarantino, one of the masters, to go, "I was going to do this, but I think you've got it in the bag, son. You go ahead."
Now you say it, I can kind of see Spielberg as sort of influences in this film. Yeah, like the use of like black and white, and the change in aspect ratio and stuff.
Yeah.
You can tell there's definitely some influence there. Yeah, amazing. Wow, imagine that. Star is Born is entertaining,
Yeah.
and the songs are good.
And I had no idea that there was a voice in there for Bradley Cooper. I didn't know he could belt out a tune, and he can.
I think he can play piano, guitar. I think he did like a crash course 6-month course to learn guitar and piano at the same time.
Really?
And he can speak like fluent French and that. The guy's like dream man, I suppose.
He's a real talent. And I always had him down as your generic heartthrob. Like, looks good on camera, so will get leading roles. Good looking dude, got charisma, all of that. But to learn that he's multifaceted in talent, I think that's amazing.
Did you see him, James Lipton, inside the Actors Studio as an audience member?
Yeah, was it
De Niro?
Yeah, it was De Niro, wasn't it?
And he stands up to ask De Niro a question when he's an acting studio.
Yeah, I love to see shit like that.
And then he's in a film with him a few years later, Limitless. Yeah. Is it Limitless?
Yeah, and I think they were in that together, and he was in Silver Linings Playbook as well. Yeah,
it's amazing. He sort of just stormed it all, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's great. Bradley Cooper admitted that one of the challenges in playing Leonard Bernstein was that so much footage of him conducting exists, and he couldn't possibly replicate his talent. Cooper therefore focused on a single performance, Mahler's Second Symphony, which he spent years learning how to conduct convincingly as Bernstein.
Is that the sweaty one?
I feel that's the sweaty one, yeah, where he really gives it some. That's the only film you see him properly conducting, and he gives it his all, doesn't he? He's so animated in the face, yeah.
It's a great scene. And I think with the film's built up and up and up to that point, that's the strangest thing. That's when it made me cry.
because it was so good.
Really?
The music was so good, and his performance in that part was, you couldn't not watch it and just be amazed. It's passionate, and obviously the music aids it hugely. But then he runs off screen to give Carey Mulligan's character Felicia a hug, and she says, "There's no hate in you." It was really made me cry, and then I didn't know what was coming in the next 30.
I think whatever someone's doing on screen, if they put absolutely every part of themselves into it, fully impassioned, fully engrossed in whatever it is they're doing, it's so endearing to watch.
Even if you don't have an idea of what
Exactly,
they're doing.
yeah. I couldn't understand the intricacies of what it takes to conduct and compose. I've watched Tar recently, and it goes into specifics and it goes way over my head. But watching someone do it is something really fascinating and captivating about that. And I think Cooper does that so well. I read somewhere he did 6 years training, I think.
Whoa.
6 years for that one scene, like to actually like learn how to conduct and compose.
Wow.
So to put that much effort into something. I also read somewhere that as a kid, like he used to be fascinated about a conductor, about someone being in front of everyone and everyone's eyes on them, so they know exactly how to perform their instruments.
See, I thought that was a nothing job. I thought it was like football commentating. I thought they're all going to be able to do the music regardless of whether he's there or not. He's just there to put the cherry on top.
Yeah.
I didn't realise, like, it shows you towards the end of this film when Bernstein's much later in his life, he's much older and he's teaching conducting to students. They example what a composer does, because this young student can't get the right whip to finish the song, and then he does a hand expression that makes the musicians do it. It's mad.
It's totally that. I ignorantly the same. All my life I thought it's just some person up with effectively a pen swiffing their wrist about. That's it.
Yeah.
But you learn through this, you learn through Tar, that it's the speed that they move their hand, it's how they lift their hand, it's all the signals that show the instrument players, the orchestra, what they have to do and how to come in, how to come out, that sort of thing. I find it fascinating, I really do.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Certainly. The film marks the very first collaboration between legendary directors Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, who both serve as producers. Prior to that, they swapped projects in the early 90s. Cape Fear was initially to be directed by Spielberg, but Scorsese ended up making it, though Spielberg's company Amblin still produced the film. Conversely, Spielberg's Schindler's List was a Scorsese project early in development. They also collaborated on the restorations of 1960s classics One-Eyed Jacks and Lawrence of Arabia. I don't know about you, but hearing those two dogs of directing swapping projects and working together is fascinating to me.
It's like weird wife swap, but with films.
Yeah, could you imagine a Scorsese Schindler's List? A Spielberg Cape Fear?
I can't imagine Spielberg doing Cape Fear. I can imagine Scorsese doing Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Spielberg, if you
You did. Yeah, a Walken wandered in here. A wild Walken appeared. I love that.
If you watch Cape Fear, that is not a Spielberg film.
It's too gritty.
It's too thriller, serial killery.
Yeah, Spielberg. I love Spielberg, but there's a certain shine and polish to a Spielberg film. There really is. He really films with an element, an air of glamour, and pretty much every film there's something about separation from parents, particularly the mum. There's always something that in these films.
Yeah, he's either a historian or a magic maker.
That's
Scorsese's grout. He's
grit. He does historical stories, but you're right. Like he shows the worst of us.
Yeah,
and he's not a man that shies away from violence. That's for sure. If you had to choose, who's the better, Scorsese or Spielberg?
I couldn't. Scorsese, in my opinion, well, he used to have a type of film, and everyone would just say gangster film. But since then, I've seen so many things he's done that his other talents.
Yeah,
like Silence, I found is probably the best film depicting religion I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Didn't he do Hugo as well?
That
lovely heartfelt film about
family film,
the lad in the train station. So he's got so many tools up his sleeve. If I wanted to sit down and have a feast of sweet, savoury, lots of things, I'd go Spielberg.
Yeah.
If I knew what I wanted, like a beautiful steak on its own, I'd go Scorsese.
Yeah, I think my thoughts align with yours. If I wanted a cosy family film,
buffet.
Yes, cosy family film. Spiel, nasty, violent, stab, Scorsese all day long. I'd say.
Yeah.
What did you like about Maestro?
The first thing that really stood out for me is the use of varying aspect ratios. and like from colour to black to white. I think that really made it feel like I was reminiscing on behalf of Bernstein, who, sorry for my ignorance, I knew nothing about.
Mate, I had no idea.
I knew nothing. My dad knew. I was like, I watched a film the other day called Maestro. It's about a guy called Leonard, and Phil went Bernstein. I was like, yeah. I was like, was he? He was like, he was huge. Like,
yeah.
All we ever heard was about how incredible his conductor was, composer, etc. And I think like watching a film of a person I'd never known and didn't know anything about him, didn't know how famous he was, how talented he was, his sexuality, I didn't know a thing about him. And I think the way the film jumps from black to white and different aspect ratios, I think it made the 30 years which the film represents from like 1946 onward feel authentic.
Yeah.
You know, I've honestly felt like I'd watched 30 years of a man's life.
Yeah.
And I think that was just clever use of what you can do now in cinema with black and white and colour and stuff. I enjoyed the aspect ratio change as well.
Yeah.
So it opens in a widescreen. As a layman, I would call that like 16:9 widescreen. And then it goes to like this 4.5 sort of looking ratio for the black and white stuff. Yeah, it's really weird. It's like travelling through the ages in this film. And I think that was all down to the really good directing from Cooper.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said. If you watch a biopic about someone that you're a fan of or know a lot about, it has to sort of meet expectations because you know enough about what the subject matter. If you go into a biopic like I did, like this one, knowing nothing about the person that the film's based on, the first time I ever heard about it was in Tar, which I watched at the end of last year, and they speak about Bernstein in that film. Yeah. And that's the only link I was able to make. But like you, I didn't know anything about the guy. So going in, watching the film, it was a pure education rather than me seeing if it's correct. Like I know a bit about Queen, I know a bit about Freddie Mercury. So watching Bohemian Rhapsody, I had some sort of prior knowledge going in.
That's because that's pop culture, isn't it? It's
exactly.
a lot easier to access Queen than it is to access something like Leonard Bernstein.
Exactly that, yeah.
And it's I love being educated. I love finding out, like, I'll never forget his name now.
Yeah, totally.
Like, the film's it shows a very prolific life, a crazy, you don't expect composers to do blow and fuck everything that walks.
You think that they're higher class, superior. But again, that's ignorance on our part. Because of course they probably like a party. They've got the means to like a party.
Yep.
They're with artistic, creative people who probably all love to party, have a drink, have a drug, all of that sort of stuff. But I'll tailgate on your like, because that's one thing that really struck me about the film, and that was Bradley Cooper as a director. He's that sort of decisive direction. Whilst I felt large parts of the film felt a little like a generic glitz and glamour Hollywood biopic, some of the directing decisions made by second-time director Bradley Cooper were really impressive. Now, to be a second-time director and make those bold choices, I think is really a great thing. The way he merged important lifetime landmarks with creative expression and freedom really helped drive the story forward. And some of the set pieces where he blended events through the scope of either a musical or a theatre show was an interesting way to navigate the narrative.
I thought that.
Yeah, and I mean, you can look at this film from an acting perspective, and he's great in it. He deserves huge credit for the composing scene, which you mentioned earlier, which genuinely gave me goosebumps. He deserves that. But from a second-time director, some of the bold film choices he makes, like, they're really creative. They're really forward-thinking, and not for something that is quite a generic biopic. Those decisions set it apart because they are a little different. Like us seeing his success through music, through him and his soon-to-be wife, sort of going through each production as if they were an audience member then in it, I thought was really smart.
In the film, aren't they having dinner at his family's home? And then she goes, I wish I could, experience and see all the things you'd written.
Yeah.
And then they sort of say, well, you can. And it goes into this sort of out of reality experience where they're on stage watching three sailors do a really brilliantly choreographed dance. It's strange because you sort of leave the story for a bit just so they can give you some filler on what it was.
Yeah.
It must be a really famous, musical.
Yeah.
Three Sailors, I think it's called.
Is it New York, New York?
I don't know if that's the same one.
I'm assuming that purely because of a Simpsons episode. It's the scene where Bart and Milhouse go wild.
Simpsons did it.
Simpsons, they teach me 90% of my education on everything. So that's why I assume I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Like I've said, I know nothing about Bernstein's work. But yeah, that decision it sort of decides to throw a bit of abstract into an
the
otherwise simple 3-structure film about the rise and the fall and the struggles and all of that sort of stuff. I thought that really broke it up nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, Dad. Thanks for tailgating on that.
No, whenever you have a good point, I will tailgate that dog.
Yeah.
If it makes sense.
It helps.
Yeah. What else did you like about Maestro, please?
Long gone are the days of the Hangover trilogy. So Cooper's proving again and again that he can go toe to toe with the greats, and his whole performance made me believe he was someone else. I didn't see Cooper, even though, you know, there is prosthetics involved and stuff, but also his performance. I didn't see Cooper. I saw Bernstein, and from all the Oscar contenders, I haven't seen The Holdovers yet, but I do believe he should win Best Lead Actor for sure, for what he's up against.
Do we know what the nominations are at the time of recording?
It's highly suspected that Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy.
It's worth saying that by the time this episode is released, we might know who the nominations are.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's a given, though.
Yeah, but you're right. Normally, these predictions aren't wrong, are they?
No, well, yeah, I should assume so.
Yeah.
I think Paul Giamatti's the one from Holdovers who there's a few asterisks next to his name, which means that he's highly suspected to be getting one. I'm desperate to see that movie. I've seen Oppenheimer, but I think DiCaprio's up for it for Flower Moon.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's hard to look past this performance for me. Like, I think it just looks like the guy exhausted himself to take on the role.
It certainly feels like the sort of film that the Oscars will take notice of. And for an A-list star like Bradley Cooper to direct and star in it, it certainly feels like it's something the Academy will take a strong look at.
Do you think, because there was all this controversy about the nose prosthetic?
Yeah, but if the family comes out, which is what's happened in this instance, and said, like, that looks like Dad, like, if they aren't appalled and insulted and outraged by it, then no one else can be, because that's their father. Exactly.
And
if
they said, didn't they, look, he would have agreed with it. He would have said he would have liked it, they said.
Yeah.
Not everything's to be inflammatory.
No. And but they're the only people that matter.
Yes.
If you're making a biopic about someone whose families are still with us, and they say, yeah, we think this is right, we want you to go forward with this, then that's the only thing that matters. People being outraged for the sake of it, that's just the time we live in. People just love to be upset by things.
Yeah. People surely have seen Bradley Cooper before this film. He already has a very lovely pronounced nose. It's actually quite a large nose. It suits his face.
Yeah, he's not got a little button boy on his face.
He does not have a little button boy. He's not Ed Helming over there.
No.
I
like his schnoz.
Yeah.
Got any more likes for me?
I implore anyone to watch 10 minutes of Person to Person, hosted by Edward Murrow. Now, this is shown in the film. It's the interview that he does through the television with him and his wife on the couch. So he's interviewing Leonard and Felicia Bernstein in 1955, and you can see this on YouTube. But Mulligan's voice work, Bradley's voice work, amazing. Mulligan especially, because she captures that pan-continental accent.
Oh.
Which is like consistent throughout the film. But if you watch the film, I could easily see why, if you didn't know how the real woman sounded, that you'd think it was quite hammy. Because it's very, oh, yes, well, I don't know.
It feels very over the top from, again, someone that knows nothing about the couple in question. I thought, come on.
Yeah.
You're speaking like you would a stereotype person from that era.
Tell Mary I love her.
Yeah.
And you know what? I thought I want to go and find out how they sound.
And you did?
I did, and it's spot on. It's spot on. I'm not a linguist, but in my ears from the footage I watched, Cooper does perfect. Mulligan does exceptional well at recreating the voice.
What's the name of that dog again, in case someone wants to take it for a walk?
It's called Person to Person, hosted by Edward Murrow, interviewing Leonard and Felicia Montenegro Bernstein in 1955. And it will show you how well the actors in this have captured the characters, the voices.
I might check that out in the Murrow.
It's work. Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Any more? Shall I go on to my likes?
Yeah, man, go.
I've got 2 more.
Oh.
Hair and makeup. I have to admit, the efforts of hair and makeup teams are normally lost on me. It's not often I notice or appreciate the hours of work that must go into making someone's face look completely different to their own. But the first thing that struck me about Maestro was how realistic an aged Cooper looked. The wrinkles, the sagging skin and the hair, they all combined to make Mr. Cooper look exactly like an aged Leonard Bernstein. Now, that is a bit of research I did do, largely because at the end of the film they show you some real footage of the man, and I did the classic Leonardo DiCaprio clip, and I was like, they look the same, they do.
That's Kazuhiro did the prosthetics, considered one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the work that they did and the makeup department did on both him and Carey Mulligan was just exceptional. And by the end, both leads were almost unrecognisable. Now, when they are aged in the film, a lot of times you can almost see that like a visible line from where they've added droopy skin from their chin to their neck. It did just, other than the eyes looking youthful, it genuinely looked like two people in the latter stages of their life. And I was just like, I don't think, as a film lover, as a cinephile, as someone who appreciates cinematography, direction, acting, dialogue, all these things, I don't think I give hair and makeup enough credit because they're just as impactful. Because if it was shit, you would notice it. Yeah. If it looked shocking, you'd be like, oh my God, he looks like a sore ball bag with that hair and makeup. But it looked brilliant.
Well, I would suggest that again as well. So if you look at Bradley Cooper in the opening scene of this movie, where he's talking to a film crew and he's doing a piece on the piano talking about his wife, you could easily think, God, he looks really fucking weird. But go and look at an actual photo of him at the time. The guy loved the sun. So he's one leathery looking motherfucker.
Yeah, crocodile handbag, right?
And it's one of them things where it's very easy if you watch this film to judge the accents, to judge the prosthetics, the way they look. And then you go look at photos, go and listen to interviews, watch interviews, and it's really spot on. It's strange.
I think that's a great point, because you could judge this as just a film, and you could just decide to, you could, like me and you, know nothing about the Bernsteins, nothing about their story. You could watch the film and, like you said, you could look at the accents and the way they speak and go, oh, that's hammy. They're just like playing to that age. And you could dismiss it, like easily dismiss it. But if you do, like you have done, do a little bit of homework, a little bit of research, and realise, wow, that's a really decent depiction, and that does deserve credit.
Yeah,
I will go and check out that clip you said. I think maybe we can go and watch it after we're done here, because I'd be interested to see it.
I started doing that after Chicago 7, because I remember a lot of people slating Sacha Baron Cohen's character in it, the accent. And I watched the movie, I loved the movie, and I thought, I want to go and see how he sounded in real life. And I listened to it, and he got it really, really spot on, like, in my opinion. And I thought, people are judging the accent because it's Sacha Baron Cohen doing a strange accent. Yeah. But the guy actually had a strange accent. So it's always worth, before you formulate an opinion, to verify your facts. Yeah. Verify the facts. Look at the sources available to you.
Check your facts, people.
Check your facts.
Exactly that. I also liked how it's the sense of meta Maestro. I love that the film score was Leonard Bernstein's own work. The term meta and the use of it in mainstream cinema has dramatically increased in recent years, and not always in a positive or effective way. But having Bernstein's music as the backdrop subconsciously lets the audience connect even more with the composer. And hearing his work play alongside a depiction of his life was a really smart move.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't put subtitles on.
I mean, doing my research after the film for facts and stuff is where the first time I didn't watch with subtitles, the second time I did. And reading up on it, I was like, oh, every piece of music in that was his own. And that's a really clever way, like, because once you learn that, you're like, oh, I'm actually learning about him through osmosis, not just the story and the parts that Bradley Cooper and everyone have decided to tell. I'm actually learning about his creative abilities with the music in the background. And whether or not you sit there and you really focus on the music, or if you're more interested in the design or what's happening on the screen, the acting, the dialogue, you're going to be absorbing that on some level because it's happening concurrently. And I thought the decision to do that, if you've got a world-class conductor, composer, and you're making a film about him, you've got a treasure trove of riches just there to be able to use for it. And the decision to do that's really smart.
Did you just say osmosis?
I did.
That's a wonderful word.
I hope I used it correctly.
You did.
I'd love it if a scientist got in touch and was like, you're wrong there.
I haven't heard that for years, and you just saying it made me really appreciate you.
Thanks, man. I think I needed to hear that today. Thank you.
That's all right.
What didn't you like about Maestro?
6 weeks without smoking or vaping or inhaling anything. This is almost an impossible watch when you want to quit. Oh, God, the way he sucks on cigarettes in this. I couldn't think of a scene where they weren't smoking.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
We stopped smoking.
At the same time.
We're doing well.
That's because we got the HIV, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got the vid. we got the dreaded vid, and that was like, stop smoking now, boys. Yeah, I certainly, watching that, it made me want to have a drink as well. I've cut down on the drinking, but the smoking more so.
Yeah.
It's just like just spending some time out in the open with a cigarette. I know it's awful for you. We're not promoting it. You shouldn't do it. It's an awful, terrible habit. But I'm like you, watching that film, I was like, I could really do with a smoke and a walk in the cold air now. Go and get a coffee.
It's toasted.
Oh, Toka smoke. A nice cortado. Then 12 Guinnesses.
Stop. Stop.
No, we're doing well. Stay strong, brother.
Yeah.
Any more dislikes?
Blowing smoke in a baby's face and then saying I fucked both your parents is exceptional, but it is wrong.
That's a form of child abuse, I'd say.
I think it is.
Little baby who doesn't know the world yet.
Yes.
Have some tar and nicotine. And also, you don't know what I'm saying, but just to let you know, I have entered both of your parents.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
One of the parents, it's worth saying, he's in the opening scene. It's implied in the film that it's like one of Bradley Cooper's first homosexual lovers.
I think we're led to believe through very small details that he is potentially the one, the other.
Yes.
Matt Bomer's character, David Oppenheim.
He's so handsome.
He's almost too handsome.
He is. When I first saw him in American Horror Story Hotel with Lady Gaga, I was like, my God, that man is probably one of the best looking men I've ever seen in my life.
You could use his cheekbones as a spirit level.
Yes.
It's so alarmingly straight. You could cut cheese off those cheekbones.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Yes.
Handsome man.
Very handsome.
Too handsome.
But just like Bernstein in the film, he also marries a woman, even though he's a gay man.
Yeah.
And that's why Bradley Cooper, when he leaves his house, they've both moved on, they've both got kids, but he comes out his house and basically Bomer's there with his wife and their baby, and Cooper's so happy to see him. And he's blowing a cigarette, he looks into the baby going, aren't you a darling? And he's breathing smoke, and then he says, I slept with both your parents. They laugh. Which is true, though. Probably did. Because he was prolific. Coke, shagging, he loved it. He lived life to the fullest. But then he has this lovely scene where he walks up the street with
Matt Bomer.
He walks up the street with him, and you can tell they're both sad that they're not actually an item, because they can't be because of the times.
And I tell you
it's
what,
a nice scene.
That nuance, that moment, like you get a sense through this story that the way the film's shown it. Like Bernstein, he's repressing who he really is, but he's happy with the hand he's been dealt. He's made the most of it. I do think he loved his wife from how this story plays out. He loves his kids.
He wanted
everything.
kids.
But there's that tiny nuanced little moment between Cooper and Bomer where you're like, it feels like you're trying to tell me that's what you really want. And that's something we've spoken about on the podcast. We can't understand that level of repression. It must be awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, a really sweet moment, I felt.
Yeah, it must be. I can't even wrap my head around it. Like how he could possibly have 3-4 kids with a woman, but inside be gay, and that not conflict with having kids and children.
Yeah,
like it's madness to me. It's because of the repression, I suppose. He has to have a front, otherwise it might affect his career.
Exactly. He had to keep up with appearances. Back then, it wasn't deemed societally acceptable to be gay and proud. Fortunately, that's changed, and it
has it. Because we look at, say, there's a British television presenter called Philip Schofield in the UK. And he married a woman and had kids with her. And he recently, it was big news about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, he came out as gay and left his wife. It's like, so
I mean,
why hide it then?
Using him as an example is right. He repressed who he was. And even in this day, and I'd say it was a good few decades ago, he probably married his wife. But you're right. I mean, we're not in a position to speak on behalf of the gay community, obviously.
Maybe he thought it would affect his career.
Maybe. You don't know. I mean, we don't know how the BBC bigwigs or television production people think, so I don't know. But there is that sense of I feel very fortunate that I've never had to hide who I am in terms of my sexuality or beliefs or anything like that. And whenever it's highlighted on screen, I just have great empathy and just think, oh, that must fucking suck.
You don't hide who you are, you just hide.
I do. I'm a ostrich man.
Yeah, you hate everyone equally.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Talking of hate, have you got any more dislikes about this film?
It made me sad that after the mum dies, so spoiler, but Carey Mulligan's character, Felicia, in the last 30 minutes of the film, it is it is taxing to watch, but she dies of a very slow cancer. And it's really weird. So I watched the film up until that exceptional composition part that he does composing. That's the part I cried at, not knowing that the next 30 minutes was going to be a really rotten cancer.
Yeah.
And having things in my own personal life, having witnessed slow cancer death.
Yeah.
It fucking hell, it opened some doors. I was like, oh my God. And I watched it and I replaced Mulligan with, say, someone I've known that's died of a cancer. And I bawled for hours.
Mate, I can only imagine.
And she played it. She played it exceptionally well. It's tragic to watch, but it's the dislike was that the kids leave the passenger seat empty when Bradley Cooper and his kids decide to leave the place where she died, and they leave the front seat empty, and all the kids sit in the back. Oh, it cut me. Oh.
Yeah, and the way the film does this, I mean, it does sort of look at the struggles of their marriage, but for most of it, it's a celebration of a couple of creative minds that found some level of happiness together. It's a celebration of their life, of all the work they've done. And the film takes such a sharp turn into that. It's all about the music, the creative process.
It's all about him.
Yeah, it's all about him. And then all of a sudden, it hits you like a ton of bricks because it comes out of nowhere. And I certainly felt that the film took a completely different direction for that last, what was it, 30, 40 minutes?
30 minutes.
Yeah, and it's handled so well. I mean, you see someone who was so full of life, Carey Mulligan's character, Felicia, so full of life, so bubbly, heaps of charisma and personality, get knocked down by this terrible, terrible illness, and her finally succumbing to it. And the way it does that, to see the life being drawn out of her, it's fucking devastating. It really is. And in a film that is, in large parts, very joyous, like you, I had huge emotional reaction to Bernstein conducting that orchestra, the joy in his face,
just talent,
the exertion of movement, it was just brilliant seeing all the musicians in that huge church building. Everything was so powerful, impactful and joyous. For the film to go that way, it was just a bit like, I wasn't expecting this.
No.
I knew I thought the story was going to go up until he's deaf, certainly, but for him to go take that route, it swept me off my feet a bit.
Because I didn't know the history of Leonard Bernstein as well. After his wife dies and that segment moves on, he then you see him in a club, with loads of younger men, and he's fucking drunk and he's sweating and he's smoking. I thought, so he's going to die from grief.
I thought it was him that was going to die of lung cancer or something, because they, like we said earlier, we're giving up smoking, doing really well. It made us want to smoke. The amount he does smoke and drink and drugs, I was like, that's what's going to get him.
That's life, though, isn't it?
Partying, yeah.
If there is a God, he rolls dices because Cooper lives. And he abuses his body constantly throughout. Exceptional cocaine scene, though, wasn't it? He does a line off a little table, and then he holds it above his head.
A little silver tray, wasn't it?
6 minutes, and he's like, "You just take it right off there. I'll sit here. Maybe I should do this all night." And then he lets another guy do it, and he's just sitting there with his arms up. Yeah. And I thought that was almost Wolf of Wall Street for a moment. I really enjoyed that little scene.
That's great. I'll go on to my dislikes.
Yeah, go on, mate.
If you allow me, let me conduct a crescendo of criticism.
Ooh.
Maestro is pure Oscar bait. Hear me out. Time and time again, we have seen films like this be made, and time again, they showcase the same domestic fallouts, the same rise from potential promise to show-stopping stardom, and the same sense of ego getting in the way of what's important. The Academy loves to suck off anything that feeds the self-gratifying Hollywood machine, and I, for one, am growing weary of the continuous excessive exposure to the elite.
Wasn't this a passion project by Cooper?
Yep. I'm not finished my rant. If you look at biopics nominated at the Oscars, you see a pattern of celebrating celebrity, and I would much rather learn about the true extraordinary exploits of ordinary people than the decadent dealings of the rich and the famous. Whilst they don't always win nor always get nominated, it's almost like filmmakers know that they stand a greater chance of award success when churning out a biopic.
Do you think?
I do, and I did a bit of research. If you look in the last 5 years, Bohemian Rhapsody, Elvis, Judy and Blonde, they're all serving, they're all biopics, they're all serving the Hollywood machine, they're all serving glitz and glamour. Don't get me wrong, this film is very well made. Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan are both very good in it. but it's just another self-sucking biopic.
So kind of like Kate Winslet's character in Extras when she says, "Oh, if you do a Holocaust film, you're guaranteed an Oscar." Pianist, Schindler's List. If you do a disabled film, My Left Foot,
yeah,
you're guaranteed an Oscar.
It feels like at the moment, because there's a lot of time has passed through some of these iconic people, Freddie Mercury, Elvis Presley, Judy Garland, Marilyn Monroe, Leonard Bernstein, like enough time has passed where they are now interesting again. It's like, oh, let's dive into their life. And it feels like it just happens time and time again. I mean, there's a Bob Marley film coming out as well. Don't get me wrong, I'll watch it. I'll probably enjoy it. But it just feels like now it's a production line of these sort of glitz and glamour biopics. And I mean, credit where credit's due. At least Maestro does a little bit.
You prefer
something different.
I can see what you mean, though. You would prefer an original story. Because at least then you're creating something from nothing. But there's not this treasure trove of resources you can pull from.
I tend to agree. If it's an original story not based on anything and it's gripping and engaging and I bond with the characters and stuff, that's amazing. That's what I love. But even like we did an episode recently, The Society of the Snow. Now that is a true story that is far more appealing to me because it shows just normal people doing extraordinary things.
Yeah.
This is don't get me wrong, but Bernstein's one hell of a talented guy. Like, wow, what an amazing feat of musical talent this man was. But I'd much rather see a nobody be a somebody in harder situations than just another one of these sort of biopics that's like, oh, look how amazing Hollywood is. Look, and you can do anything if you chase your dream. You can't, though.
Is it more about the subject matter, not the way the film was made? Because would you say Oppenheimer's also guilty of Oscar bait?
I would say yes. I would say it is a little guilty. It's more looks of the genius of a man and how damaging what that man managed to do, like the impact it had. It's not self-serving like Maestro is, because they're like, well, yeah, he did an amazing feat of science, but look what the end result was. So I think it differs there. Whereas this one's like, it's like Hollywood almost patting himself on the back. It's like, oh, look at another guy. We got another guy. Like, how good are we? How good are we? How good's show business? How good's Hollywood? How good are we?
All art forms aspire to be music.
Okay.
Eat me.
Okay. And my second dislike, I don't know, we may clash on this, but I just didn't connect with it. I didn't find Bernstein particularly likeable or interesting. I found the story of a troubled marriage stale and generic, and I found large parts of the film slow and self-serving. Now, I've said it already, but despite this, I do think it's a very well-made film with solid central performances. But when I'm watching a biopic, I need to care about the individual or individuals being represented. And if I'm being totally honest with you, and as much as I respect anyone who is a master of their craft, I didn't really give a bloody damn about the Bernsteins.
I agree with you about the likability part. It's very hard for me to like him, being the overly promiscuous in plain sight of his wife. You know, trying to lead men up to the roof and stuff while his wife's in the same room. That is not a nice character trait. No. I don't care how good your music is. Yeah, you should not have married that woman.
Exactly. Yeah, and of course that God we've already mentioned. Like, we don't understand that the societal repression and expectations that had to be met. But his wife was almost like, from how this film tells the story anyway, his wife's almost accepting of it. That's a part of Leonard's life. Do that life separate from me. I don't need to know about it.
Which is impossible.
Yeah, but you're asking him to hide his truth and at the same time saying, I accept your truth. It's like, it's sort of contradictory.
Well, he's not hiding his truth, though, is he? Because he's married, but everyone knows, everyone in his circle, therefore by proxy outside of his circle, know that he's actually gay. His own daughter hears rumours of it when...
Suspects it, doesn't she?
Yeah, when she's back in her hometown, and he still dismisses the rumours, but he's very open about it because obviously that's his repression, and he's got to the point in his life where he's like, I don't give a fuck if people know. Yeah. You know, but it's the way he does it so disrespectfully towards his wife, but then again, she's just as guilty of bringing that on herself.
Yeah, you can't learn about that early doors and then get mad later on when he's doing the very thing you've accepted him for.
I'd say this film and Oppenheimer share really similar issues, and you've made an excellent point about both of them there. And it's that I didn't find the character of Oppenheimer likable. I mean, the man was trying to get his name known to the world by the darkest means. Yeah. And just like Maestro, this guy would he'd fuck over everyone to a degree just to write a beautiful piece of music. It's like,
Yeah.
can you separate the art from the artist?
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, they're both, for me, very difficult films to know how I feel about them.
Yeah, I'd tend to agree, because objectively, from a filmmaking standpoint, like, all boxes are ticked in this film. Like, you can't say that Bradley Cooper isn't very, very good in this. You can't say Carey Mulligan's very, very good in this.
Yeah.
You can't say their physical performances, the accents, the filming choices, the music, obviously fantastic. All of that, you can't say is poor.
No.
But if you don't care about what the film's telling you, then you're not going to enjoy it as much as, say, Society of the Snow, where from minute dot, I'm like, I know how this pans out, but I oddly want the very, very best for these people.
Of course, yeah.
And that, I think that's the difference.
You can put yourself in their shoes. I
cared about Society of the Snow and the people, the true life story of the people the picture was portraying. But Maestro, I didn't really give a shit about the Bernsteins. Yeah, to be honest.
Because as much as we talk about repression, he did have choices. Yeah. The people in Society of the Snow didn't have a choice. They were ordinary young guys, rugby players who were put into a survival situation.
Exactly that.
They're not rock climbers asking for it. And Bradley Cooper could have Bernstein could have conducted his life in a healthier way.
Good use of word there, conducted.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Like that.
Yeah.
My final dislike is a little less ranty, but choir expressions.
What?
Yeah. I have this very niche dislike in humanity as a species. I always have and always will get really angry at overexpressive choir singers. Nothing.
Oh God, yeah, I remember now.
I used to, on a Sunday, as a kid, I was a child, I used to put on songs of praise so I could get pissed off at the old people singing hymns, because they would act like they're front and centre of stage.
Was you going to do something competitive after, and you were getting yourself ready?
No, I just wanted to hate on them.
You wanted to vent?
Yeah, I wanted to see the world.
I know exactly who you're talking about as well. It was that woman in the front row, wasn't it? With huge jowls.
Oh, man, nothing beats the sound of a group of people harmonising and making beautiful mouth sounds as a team. But when I see a group of singers and notice several of them overact the shit out of singing like they are the independent sole focus, it makes me unreasonably angry. There was at least 6 cases of choir-led character syndrome in Maestro, and it grinded my goat. Man, it's something that has always bothered me. Like, I get it. I mean, I'm no musician, I'm no singer, and I get it. To get the best performance, you have to, like, maybe animate yourself. There's certain vocal cords to hit that you have to breathe deeper and work harder for. But at the same time, don't think you're Daniel Day-Lewis giving an Oscar-winning performance because you're singing. If I'm noticing your muggy little face singing the shit out of a song, I get so fucking worked up about it.
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
I think it's called acting through singing.
I think it's called bullshit.
So if they're really expressing it and over-expressing, it's like they're imagining the pearly gates singing to God.
Do you know what I think it is, mate?
What?
I think it's extroverts not being good enough to have made it, so they're putting it all into a choir performance, and they still think they're going to be found. And they're like, I'm going to perform, I'm going to give it, this is my moment. Ain't your moment, there's 60 other people there. Only I'm looking at you because I hate you.
Perchance, were any of them on the large side, the ones that were over-expressing themselves?
I can't say I noticed that 2 of them were obese.
2? 2 of them?
3.
Them?
People. Choirs. It doesn't matter if they're fat. If they're over-expressing and singing, it pisses me off, all right?
Yeah, but if they're...
As an ex-rotund person...
So yes. And as a currently rotund person...
I sometimes struggle with...
There's nothing wrong with saying
excessively large people
who moan about it
and also glamorize obesity like they're not a struggle on the NHS or
she died.
On medical.
Did you see that video?
Well, oh yeah, I sent you that. Yeah, there's a yeah. I've got some questions.
Yeah.
What are your top 3 biopics?
I couldn't give you a top 3. Well, I can.
Just throw some shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah.
Walk the Line.
Oh.
First Man. Wolf of Wall Street. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And they're all a bit different. Walk the Line's a bit of a music biopic. First Man, I mean, Misa Love the NASA Spacer programs.
Used to love some NASA Spacer programs.
I do. I think they're all brilliant. Dallas Buyers Club's one of my favourite.
Yeah, I've got Dallas Buyers Club. I've also got The Aviator and Into the Wild.
Aviator.
Even though he was a dick.
Why did he piss in all them bottles?
Because he's mad.
Oh.
And that's why I like it, I think.
Ah.
Yep.
Yep.
Who would you choose to star and direct in a film about your life?
I'll just Bradley Cooper it. I'll do it myself.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that would
he's
be
not-
about my life, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be Bernstein doing a film about Bernstein, or Cooper doing a film about Cooper.
Oh, shit. Oh. Can I star in it and have someone else direct it?
You can do whatever you like, mate.
I'd star in it and have Greta Gerwig direct it so I could just cause her so much shit and so much trouble that the project never gets off its feet.
So even your own story, you're willing to sabotage.
Yeah, but then 5 years down the line, someone makes a story about us trying to do that film. So kind of like...
So, and then, are you playing yourself in that story as well?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd have Rufus Sewell.
Who's that?
He's that guy with the dirty ocean blue eyes.
Oh.
That, yeah.
It is one of my best traits.
It is. You have disgustingly unique eyes.
Everything else withered away like a winter wine, but the my eyes they stayed good.
They're a good pair of eyes. Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, it's like having great headlights on Princess Diana's car.
Okay. I think you've already answered this question, but I've got it written down, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Did this film make you want to learn more about Leonard Bernstein?
Well, I did go and learn a bit more about him. I've always loved composers and classical music. Ralph Vaughan Williams being one of my favourites. Lark Ascending, 5 variants of Dies of Lazarus.
Look at you go.
Thomas Tallis. Oh, yeah, I do love that music. His pieces, I'm not very well familiar with. I'm not in a huge rush to learn more about him. It's I don't know. No, not massively. No. I just watched it for the talent, really, about, the recreating of a person's life. And it's all, like I said, I love being educated. Now I know a bit, thanks to film, I know more about someone I never knew.
Yeah.
And that just enriches you as a person.
And
which is good.
Man. Yeah, that's always good, isn't it?
Yeah. It's okay. I'll cut you up a couple of times, so don't worry, bro.
Oh, good. I like it when we're friends.
I know.
What would you rate Maestro out of 10?
8.
Okay.
8, yeah.
I did think, I had a sneaky suspicion that you'd go relatively high.
Yeah, I think I have to. I honestly believe it won't take anything at the Oscars. Maybe hair and makeup potentially, but I don't think it will. I don't think it will pull anything. I think they've already predetermined Oppenheimer probably will win Best Director. I think potentially Barbie or Oppenheimer will win Best Picture. I just don't think this is going to see a light of day.
See, I don't see Maestro winning Best Picture, but I would not be surprised if Bradley Cooper won Best Actor or Best Director. Because of what I spoke of earlier, the self-gratifying Hollywood machine, I would not be surprised. And I know they, after last year and Everything Everywhere, all at once sweeping the Oscars, I know they're trying to be seen to be more different and more welcoming of different things. But I would not be surprised. It does feel like, because of time served, Paul Giamatti might win because he's been around. He's been a dog of the industry for a long, long time. I do think it's going to be between Cooper and Giamatti, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper does it.
I haven't seen Poor Things, sorry. I do think Mulligan's performance is better than Lily Gladstone's, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, for the simple fact she has more to do. I think it's that simple. I mean, if you're going to give Best Actor award, the person needs to be in most of the film, I would say. And Lily Gladstone doesn't have half as much screen time as Carey Mulligan, and Emma Stone is the lead in Poor Things, which I saw at the weekend and thought she was fantastic in.
I'm looking forward to it.
I've gone a bit lower than you for those reasons laid out in my dislikes, and I've gone 6.5. Now, I don't think I could go any lower than that because of the filmmaking prowess, the directive decisions and the performances. I think it would be really harsh to go any lower than that.
Well, it didn't tickle your tummy. There's nothing wrong with that.
It didn't tickle my tummy, mate. And despite enjoying being more educated about the subject matter, despite appreciating the filmmaking stuff and the score and the performances, all of that. I just didn't connect with it. And if I had, I think I'd been up there with your score maybe. That gives Maestro a total score of 14.5 out of 20. If you like your biopics operatic, well orchestrated, and oh so obviously Oscar bait, or if you've ever wanted to see Bradley Cooper conduct an orchestra like an obsessively possessed octopus, then Maestro could be a film for you. Maestro is available to stream on Netflix. Consider watching this one if you enjoyed Tar, Tick Tick Boom, and A Star Is Born. Should we play a game?
Give it a name, give it a name, give it a name now. We birth a plot and then make a trailer. What the plot? Action!
So it's dawned on me recently that every what the plot I give is a dark, twisted thriller or murder or drama. I need to be a bit lighter.
You does what you like, Lou.
But I feels like I need to show that I'm not just a dark, bitter, twisted man who thinks about murder and killing and all such things. I do like lighter films. I do like comedies. I do like these sort of things. So I'm going to put to you something a little bit softer today.
Come on then, my one-trick badger.
An agoraphobic man who lives in a camper van in the middle of nowhere has his mobile home stolen by his twin brother. In a bid to help his brother come out of his shell, this kidnapping twin forces his double to see more of the world without ever having to leave his home.
So the motorhome gets taken along the journey. He stays in it, but gets to see.
He for whatever reason, we don't know what the grief or the catalyst is for him becoming an agoraphobe. Maybe we don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe it's a shared experience, and one twin has been able to live his life as normal, and the other one has not been able to live a normal life. He's a recluse. He doesn't want to be anywhere near people, and his twin brother's able to get his passport sorted or whatever, and he decides to just take his brother on a trip.
That's like one vehicle away from being the straight story too. In it though.
Yeah, but the brothers haven't fallen out. They've got a great relationship. In fact, the twin that's a shut-in stay-at-home, his twin's all he's got. He does his shopping for him. He's his only link to the outside world. And the other twin's like, you know what? It's too sad. I know what you were like before. I've tried everything. To get you to come out. But your fear of being on the outside, of leaving your homes, becomes so massive, so big, that the only way I can try and help is to move you in your home. Okay. And I just think it's a sweet story that maybe he after a while, he starts to warm to the ideas. People that they meet on the way, they might want to be like, oh, who's that in there? And be like, that's my brother. He doesn't like to come out. He can maybe build relationships through the window, through the door. He never leaves his house. And then it could be one of them lovely stories that he doesn't ever leave the house until they get back to his patch of land or whatever. And the last shot of the film is he feels refreshed, rejuvenated, born again, and he just steps outside of his trailer home for the first time.
This is nice. I like this. This is very unlike you.
I worked hard on coming up with something that wasn't, there's this guy that found someone he hated, so he killed him, but then made it didn't look like he killed him. And it's about that.
Are you fussed by the age of the casting of the actors? Because I don't want it to be granddad's.
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice.
It can be, the only thing I have is, in my head, just male twins. They don't have to be identical. They could be identical. You could have a dual performance like Mark Ruffalo in I Know This Much Is True. There can be any age.
Can it peak? Can the big reveal be that something finally lures him out of the motorhome? Something so amazing, like an incredible fireworks show on New Year's. Like, it turns out that their journey's taken all the way to like New Year's Eve, and then he sees this beautiful woman talking to the brother outside the van, and then he decides to come out. The fireworks are going off and stuff.
Could be,
and that could be the tearjerk moment of the film, the Forrest Gump moment, the moment where he because his brother has taken him on this journey.
Yeah.
Almost by force.
It can. Well, he has effectively kidnapped his brother in his own home. He has.
In his own. No, but can you kidnap someone who's an agoraphobe in their house if their house moves? If your house has got wheels, can you be kidnapped?
Well, yeah, because he's being He's in his stagnant, non-moving house, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and his house is moving somewhere else.
But that doesn't break his condition. That he's still allowed to be agoraphobe. Then
Exactly. That's why this brother's like, you know what? You won't see the rest of the world, or the rest of it. Maybe it's set in the States or Australia or somewhere massive, so they can go and see loads of different places without ever having to get on a plane or whatever. Maybe that's the point.
Is he okay having people come into his safe space?
No, other than his twin, no. So he could, as he goes on, the longer he's on this trip, he might have to start talking to, or can you get my brother's over there? Can you get him if he's having a turn or an anxious moment? He needs to talk to his brothers over there. Then he starts interacting with people because he has to. And it's a journey, but it's a journey in a very real sense of he's going from one place to another, but it's also a metaphorical journey of him getting over whatever has restricted him to the confines of his own home.
Oh, that's cool. I think there should be a scene where his brother like installs like a PA. So there's like a megaphone outside the van, so his brother can talk, but without coming outside and stuff.
And it's one of those rare stories that this guy isn't doing it for a selfish means. He's not doing it to break to his brother, I'm dying, or I'm moving to another country. He's like, you know what? We've grown up together. I love you. I don't want the rest of your life to be this. Mm-hmm. There's so much good out there, and for this reason, whatever the reason is, you're limiting yourself to what you see. And he's like, and I'm going to do all I can. He's tried counts and he's tried all the normal things. And he's reached a point where he's like, the only way I can get him out of his house is to move his fucking house. Mm-hmm. So he gets to drive through the country. I see it at the start. The agoraphobe is dead against it. Can't believe this is happening to him. He's fuming. But through traveling through the country, seeing outside, he slowly comes around.
I'd say he wakes up to motion.
Yeah.
And he's like, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
And that his brother's already installed the PA, and he's like, where the hell am I? And you hear it on the road and stuff. There's only one country I see this being set in, Vanuatu. I'm joking. United States. It has to be
that
the
scale,
States.
doesn't it? Yeah.
It's going to be an exceptional road movie, and it will have that beautiful moment where he does tackle his condition. Doesn't solve it, but he has the courage to come out and see that there's a lot to live for in life.
Through tackling anything, any obstacle, it's very rare that in your first attempt you get it right. So there will be times of failure. Maybe he'll be having a laugh with his brother in the actual camper van mobile home. They're having a laugh, having a beer, and he tempts him to come outside. He's like, let's just try and walk to the car. I need to go and get my smokes. Walk to the car. And he walks to the car, gets halfway there, and he's like, he can't do it. He goes back in, and that makes him take a few steps back. But it's very much a heartwarming film. It's a road movie. We both love road movies here. It's a feel-good film. It's about brothers connecting. It's about just genuinely trying to help someone out. And it doesn't even have to be a film that suddenly they fall out or one of them's dying or there's inevitable peril. The peril is this guy and his brother trying to get someone who's an agoraphobe over that condition and trying to push through it. It's not going to say that the film finishes and he's like, I'm going to go and see the world now. It wouldn't be that simple, but he'd be able to maybe spend 5 minutes outside of the motorhome.
But having an aid with him allows him to experience a bit more. But
exactly.
Eventually, you probably know he's going to go back to his usual ways. I keep thinking of scenes. A scene that keeps sticking in my head for some strange reason is that they're at some quite halfway through their journey. There's like a party outside. It's nighttime. There's lights. There's tea lights and stuff. And he's staying indoors. And there's lots of drinking going on. And the brother's out there enjoying himself because it's taxing. What he's had to do is quite taxing, but he takes it on the chin. And I feel like whoever the guy's talking to, like a woman, her friend comes along and goes, "Who's in the van?" He goes, "Oh, my brother, but he doesn't like to come out. He's got a bit of a condition." And she, without any sort of permission, drunkenly goes into the van.
Yeah.
And he's so like, and it'd be a great scene. He's so like alert and alarmed by it, but because she's so blasé, he relaxes into it, and then she like kisses him and says Happy New Year, and he smiles and it makes his day. Lots of scenes.
It'll be loads. I feel it would have loads of them little moments that to me and you would feel like just a nothing moment.
Yes,
like. He'd put his arm out to grab a snack that his brother's given him from outside or something. He opens the front door and leans his face out to get a hit of the countryside fresh air or whatever it is. There'd be loads of little moments that just work towards him dealing with his situation better. I think it's just a sweet film.
I can already see the trailer. I can see, like you said, the head out the window, the hair blowing in the wind, the music, Cairns Film Festival, all of that going on. I see Cameron Crowe directing, because the man bangs a good road movie. He did it with Almost Famous. He does the feel good movies. Jerry Maguire, Cameron Crowe definitely directing. Now the casting's probably my most exciting that I've ever had, because you said twins. My God, yes. Javier Bardem and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. They are fucking lookalikes. So naturally, I've got two actors that aren't actually related, but they would play exceptional twins.
So would you have
Bardem's agoraphobe.
Would you have... Okay, Bardem's the agoraphobe. And would
sorry,
you have,
is it agoraphobe?
I think it's agoraphobe.
Sorry.
I apologise to anyone if that's wrong. But
he has to be, purely because of Shigir.
But then, okay, that is, by the way, that is great casting. Older gentlemen, but not really old gentlemen. Not super young gentlemen. They're
Dean
not...
Morgan has that more confident chin. Like, I feel like he's that guy that's a bit more alpha, whereas Bardem can be alpha and beta.
Yeah, I think he would certainly play that troubled mind well. An interesting casting, because would you have Javier Bardem put on an American accent, or would you have Jeffrey Dean Morgan put on like a Spanish accent? Because Javier Bardem's got a very strong Spanish accent.
That's tough in this world of social justice warriors.
Or would you just would it just be one of those things that where it's like, guess what? I don't care. One of them's got a Spanish accent. One of them got an American accent.
Maybe I'll just Chernobyl it. Maybe they're maybe Bardem's character, that his parents got divorced, his mum was Spanish and or Mexican, etc., Latino of any sort, and he lived with her for his youth because of his condition, whereas Dean Morgan moved with his dad to Texas because his dad worked on an oil field, so they've got different dialects, different accents, and then we avoid the issue of cultural appropriation.
Yeah. I like that. That's great casting. Big fan of that.
Yeah, I think I'd call the film Back on the Road. No, because he's not been on the road.
That's strong though. Yeah, but back on the road is a metaphor. He's back on track. He's
back on track. The road is long.
The road to recovery is long.
That's too much.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying not the title isn't going to be The Road to Recovery is long. I'm saying the road is long implies that the road to recovery isn't a simple short trip. It's a long road. So yes. Road to Recovery works.
The road is long. No. Back on the road. No. A217.
Okay.
No, fuck that. No, because he isn't going back on the road. It's his first time properly on the road, isn't it?
On the road?
Road.
Road to redemption? Road to renewal?
Road to... No. Oh my God, I've got it.
Go on, son.
Agora Road.
Agora Road.
That's terrible. That's bad. I'm going to go with it.
Agora Road.
Agora Road. Agora Road, directed by Cameron Crowe, and the twins are Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Javier Bardem. Agora Road. I can't do it. Can I do better than that?
No.
Road to Agoraphobe. Road to Agoraphobe. Road.
But it's away from agoraphobia. Agoraphobia.
Agora Road. Agora Road.
Agora Road. Done.
Jesus Christ, get some air in the room, Javier.
You don't get to tell me what to do with my life. This is my home. I'm sick of you telling me what to do.
There's a whole world out there, brother.
Then go and see it. I don't have to go with you. I'm perfectly happy here with my home. I don't need you. I'm fine here. Sometimes the road to recovery isn't one you take on your own. Sometimes you need your brother to take your home.
Javier, look! It's Niagara Falls!
Close the curtain. I want to go to sleep. From Oscar-winning director Cameron Crowe and starring Javier Bardem and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Agora Road.